All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Marcelo Lopez's son. Hey, his name is Marcelo Lopez, from what I understand.
How's it going, Matt? How's it
Hey, welcome back.
going? Thank
I don't
you.
know. I don't know that that's really the start of the show, but
I don't know. I don't know either. But it's
we
a
are
while.
now recording.
Yeah.
So
But it's been a while. It's been a while coming.
it has been a while. How have you been?
It's been a roller coaster. You know, watching on the sidelines as all these rolling layoffs go by, all this other shenanigans going on in business and stuff
Still
like
with
that.
the layoffs. The market was crap last year. It's still crap, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Google, threatening that they're going to lay off some more folks and stuff. It's to, it's to just nature to expect that sort of stuff. I always wondered. I wonder when they're going to get to the point where they feel they've grown up as a company, and the suit and tie folks are going to take over.
Hasn't that happened with Google already? Do you
I
mean
was gonna say,
Yeah, it has, but the pandemic delayed the inevitable. You know,
interesting?
it's like that scene in The Matrix where you hear that sound, Mr. Anderson. That sound is the sound of inevitability. The sound of layoffs.
Yeah.
Well, the pandemic put a little dampener on that. Otherwise, I suspect it would have probably happened sooner with Google. That asymptotic growth curve that Google had experienced for many years has
Asymptotic.
sort of just flattened out, and they're now on a slightly logarithmic growth scale, but it's much more dampened.
Asymptotic means you're approaching, getting closer and closer and closer to, like, say 0 or 1, but you never quite get there because you're just sort of half and half. Okay.
Yeah, you're just getting there.
Mm-hmm.
You're still getting there.
But you never will, though.
But you never will. Yeah, and it's kind of funny you mentioned that.
Interesting.
Because that sort of does circle back to what we were talking about. About the stuff we talked about last time, which is there's no such thing as an agile transformation because you're not really getting there.
So what is there then? If it's not transformation, is it continuous improvement? Would that be valuable?
Well, improvement is part of it.
Yeah.
You would hope that you're taking on change for the better of something, whatever that something is. It could be variant, but for something you're deciding to do what you're doing differently so that you can you're improving your way towards achieving something. But that something is never the thing. There's never the thing.
But hopefully it's connected to this central reason why the business exists in the first place, though, right?
Yeah.
Shipping value.
That is true. I mean, think of it this way. You say Jeff's got a title with a C in it. Congratulations, you're part of the C-suite. What's your product? Okay, your product is the sign on the front door. Okay, whatever that product is on the front door, and whatever comes out of that front door is what you're in pursuit of. Today,
you mean you, the person in the role, or the organization, like they're part of their division within the organization, or what do you mean?
Can I choose C all the above?
You could. It'd be a longer show, but you could choose that.
Yeah. See all the above. I mean, if you're in that sort of position, you're setting intent. Okay.
Yeah.
And your intent is to make whatever that sign on the front door is better. So in a sense, yes, it is improvement, but whatever that is your product. You're part of what you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason people show up and give you money. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes. So I still want to hear clarity on this because Matt, you asked, do you mean the door of the office or do you mean the door of the building? So are you talking XYZ Corporation is your product, or executive is your product?
No, XYZ is your product. Okay. Apple is your product. Google is your product. Microsoft is your product. Whatever, especially in the way our economy works, where everybody is, or most corporations are this, we compete for shareholders mindset. Okay? Whatever that competition is for shareholders, is I'm going to buy Microsoft. I'm going to short Google. Okay, I'm going to this, so and so forth. Right? That's the product that the shareholders are buying.
Ownership in a slice of ownership in the organization.
Correct. At the end of the day, that's what they're doing. What drives their decisions to invest or divest? Okay, it's their impression of that product that you, as a C-level strategic person, okay, are putting forth as owner of that product.
It's their expectations for future earnings of the organization as guided by the C-level leaders.
Yeah. There is your product, and that is your roadmap. Your future earnings projection, there's your product roadmap.
Yeah.
Are we going to get there? Who knows? Maybe not.
So let me ask you a semi-provocative question. Elon bought Twitter, and he laid off like 60-80% of the people. Is that going to happen across tech, do you think? Because Twitter's still working. I think actually their numbers are way up, honestly.
Yeah. I don't believe it'll happen that much to the bone, so to speak, but I do believe we'll see that across other companies. We're seeing it in other companies. Evernote has done it. Spotify has done it.
It turns out Twitter had too many people working there, and the relationship of headcount to productivity was all off. I mean, I think we can see that in retrospect. Like, if you could cut your expenses by half, why wouldn't you do that? Apparently they did. So, but
yeah,
right. Mm-hmm. And I think Twitter maybe was more vulnerable in that sense than maybe some other companies, but it seems like there's across the industry. But the thing they didn't need apparently was more agile.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because
right.
Because how I would answer that is what they didn't need as much of is what they were calling agile.
Here we got to the center.
Well, you did say you were going to ask a provocative question.
I tried to.
You couldn't ask a question like that and not expect this kind of a response.
I mean, that's why
because here's the thing, it is predicated on, is what we're doing what we actually think we're doing.
Right.
You could think you're applying 4 values, 12 principles. Yeah. Okay. You could convince yourself of that, 5 days a week, twice on Sunday, you get off Saturday.
That's good. We work hard.
And be absolutely not doing any of those. Okay?
Yeah, the road to hell's paved with good intentions or something, right?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. But the answer.
No, I'm hoping we're getting to a point because I don't feel one.
Sharpen us up, Michael.
Give me a point. I agree with Mike to a point that I do see that certain functions, I'm not going to call them roles, certain functions are seeing more publication of availability. Okay, and I'm prefixing that phrase very carefully.
Publication of availability.
Okay, because here's my problem with that. I mean, if we go by what we see on some of the public forums for business, I'm not going to say its name, but I'm pretty sure you guys know which one I'm talking about. Okay,
Xerox.
They'll list a job, right? Mike looks at it, right, and Mike says, "Oh shoot, that's pretty cool." And then Mike looks at it and sees there's 200 applicants. I'm gonna go Tim to.
And you are in the top 96% of applicants.
Yeah,
if you were to apply.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's 200 applicants. Well, interestingly enough, that kind of stuff was very recently debunked because it turns out that number, and I don't know how this leaked, but apparently this has not been fixed. It's still.
Is this on LinkedIn that you see this?
No names.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Sorry.
But the thing is,
let him finish his point. It was recently linked.
Yeah, it was recently leaked that number truly means one of two things. They couldn't say which one of the two it was. Either the number of actual people who've viewed and saved that, okay, saved that role, okay, or the number of people who it has actually been fed to, as you described, Mike, where you are a high percentile probable candidate.
So shown, but not necessarily had any indication of interest on the part of the person
Correct.
it was pitched to.
Correct.
So it kind of BS numbers.
Precisely. It does not apparently actually mean that many people have formally applied to that position. And that I found that rather interesting.
So what is the purpose of that UI element then? Just to induce a sense of urgency on the part of the job seeker?
Well,
does that help?
Yes.
Who does that help?
Yes, because I'll use a different example. There used to be a website called, or there still is to my knowledge, I just haven't used it in a god-awful time, dice.com.
Oh, sure.
Anybody heard of that?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? At one point in time, Dice had a little ticky mark there on the page saying actively bookmarked by.
Oh, yes.
Which
I remember
would
that.
tell you how many other people had bookmarked that position. And again,
but even bookmarking doesn't convey that you have applied.
Correct.
So
Exactly.
it's false.
Exactly. It's kind of like and the funny part is that it's a marketing ploy, because if you go look for vehicles, for example, okay, if you look on cars.com, they have a similar thing. If you go look at a car, they'll have a little thing saying actively being viewed by blank number of people. Booking.com for flights, Expedia.com says the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's trying to instill a sense of urgency for you to hit that zero moment of truth, which is again another marketing thing, which is the moment in which you go from deciding to decided.
So, Mike, I think I smell the point. The point is that the job market in Agile is not as bad as it looks. Is that fair?
How do we know that?
I'm waiting for Marcelo to respond. Is that what you're trying to say? Because when you look at 200 people applied, that could mean they clicked the apply button, which does not apply you. It takes you to the seller's website where you may jump through enough hoops to have applied.
Correct.
I put stuff in lists all the time in different areas of my life.
But from the platform's perspective,
you click through, you applied. Correct.
You applied. So
right. And
so that may just be the number indicated.
Yeah, and I'll go you one further. This works in well, I'm sorry. I almost said that. Maybe we can erase that in quote. Sorry.
We can.
It almost works in that website's favor because, let's be honest, they're making money off of you applying. They're making money off of your applying. Okay.
Well, that's relevant.
Because the fact is, if a company to post on a position, you got to pay. You don't get it for free. Okay. And to get something posted for a position and to get it viewed on top of that, you pay. Okay. And it is in LinkedIn's best interest to give the customer the sense of value for the thing that they're charging you for. So if Mike puts up a position, okay, and people aren't clicking through to apply, okay, Mike is going to think twice about continuing to use this unnamed service to seek out qualified candidates.
Okay. So sure, of course, I would say I'm not getting enough, but did I get applicants? And where am I getting them from? Like I probably posted on a couple of different services.
Right.
So I posted a couple places. I did word of mouth. I got people who are already logged into or have accounts on my site or on my job site to look for available positions.
Yeah. So
Matt makes go ahead. Sorry.
No. Finish your thought, because then I'm going to finish answering the question.
Well, I said Matt made the the statement that maybe the market isn't as bad as it appears. The Agile market isn't as bad as it appears, but I still talk every month with folks that have been looking for work for a long time.
Yep.
I see people in my profile and my contacts list who are no longer with the company that I believe they're with. That they're and they've got a little green circle around their head.
Yep. Well,
So,
that's a whole other conversation, Mike.
Okay.
Is the value of that little green thingy.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a whole other conversation. But to answer your question originally, I'm gonna side with Mike here. I still think that market is really really ugly right now. And I'll tell you go even further. It's not just
ever coming back.
Huh?
Stop that. Let him finish.
I'm trying to facilitate the conversation, which
no,
means
you're not.
It's
making it easier.
It's not that it's not back. There are jobs being posted. Okay, there's two problems with what's actually being posted. One, they're posting positions with, I'll just say it, a ridiculous compensation rate. And by ridiculous, I mean you fundamentally misunderstand that if you're getting someone who's qualified for this position, you're offering a laughable amount of money versus the investment of the time and experience that they've used to acquire the skills for what you're asking for. You're not.
You don't really want.
You're lowballing, is what you're saying.
I was trying to be kind, Jeff. I was trying to be nice. But yes, they are lowballing. That's
what that means is that you don't get that, right? If you're not willing to pay what it's worth.
Well, that brings
they don't value that.
Yes, and that brings me to the next point. That a lot of the things that I've been seeing, okay, and this is by virtue of talking to the plethora of people that I'm connected to. I'll be honest, toot my horn a little bit. I have a non-insignificantly sized set of followers on this particular media platform. And I guess you could say I'm an agile confessor, if you will.
I could say that.
People, tell me some of the things that they're going through, employed or not employed.
Yes,
and I will pose questions to them to get a little bit deeper understanding of what their situation and their context is, and that informs my opinion.
I have some
confessions that you'll see me post on from time to time. And usually, when you see me post something, it's because of one of these conversations. It's why I say there's a million stories in the Agile City. Okay, it's because of all this stuff. And so, to Jeff's point, okay, a lot of times it's not just that they're lowballing. It's a lot of stuff is actually being posted out there with probably what I'll say is little intention of recruiting from the outside. HR is less expensive to shift someone internally,
right?
Okay, than to downsize someone and then re-recruit for the position. There is a sunk cost that you've already paid as a company to hire someone, that if you let go of that person, bring someone else, you're now going to incur that sunk cost in again. And HR, believe it or not, is actually seen as is not a profit-making center in an organization. Let's be blunt about that. HR is not a profit-making center. It is a revenue-saving function.
Mm-hmm. It's a cost center, fundamentally.
Exactly. And so they will often put out positions to be able to get people so that they can justify that they've done their due diligence, because that's how So
they don't really want to hire those people for those jobs at those rates. It's not for the intended. It's not for the what's the word I'm looking for? The apparent purpose. It's for a different purpose that is hidden.
Well, and if you want to back that up, you can look at places that we know have been looking for people that we are familiar with that place. And so we know there's only one job that they're listing. But I think there was a day 2 weeks ago, I got 20 calls in 2 days from 20 different companies, all trying to pitch that one space, that one role.
Yep.
So there is an illusion of availability of roles.
Okay.
That isn't real at all. Right. It's a bunch of I don't know.
A bunch of pigs at the trough that are trying to glom onto one single role and say, "Here, it's mine, it's mine." Yep. So it's competition. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That's a more polite word.
I'll go you one further. Okay. You know, it's kind of like those late night commercials, but wait, there's more.
Oh no.
There's another one. Okay. And this is a personal anecdote. Okay. Just a couple of weeks ago, I got reached out to, like you mentioned, Jeff, by a couple of recruiters for an enterprise coaching opportunity. Okay. Oddly enough, the way they were describing this company, and I'm based in South Florida. I've been operated out of here for over a decade, and doing what I do now. And I started listening to what this recruiter was telling me, and I'm like, I know who this company is. Literally, I know who the company is. Okay, and then a little bit later, I get a call from another recruiter. Same sort of description. I'm like, I know who this company is. Oddly enough, this is a company where I know someone relatively high placed in the organization, because when they were at a different company, also here in South Florida, I trained several of their teams. I literally went on site as a private engagement and trained some of their teams and helped launch their teams several years back. Mm-hmm. And that person's no longer there. They're now at this other company. And I'm like, I'm going to reach out to them just for grins and giggles. Not that I'm trying to go behind the recruiter's back, because recruiters, they're never going to do something flaky. So I actually texted this person, and this person texted me back. It was around the holidays. So I also, went through, hey, how's it going? Merry Christmas, happy holidays. It turns out this purported position, which they needed my resume desperately for, not only is it not in budget, it probably won't open till mid-2024. But the recruiters said they absolutely had to have me in now.
Having you in now is for the benefit of the recruiter in this case, then, is that right?
Correct.
Not for you.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And therein lies the rub, that we have multiple layers of functions that we're dealing with. And the thing is this, I have to step back and I have to take a little bit of accountability here. Okay.
Cool. It's your fault.
No.
Well, I think this is a good thing, because like if you had the people who were really buying this, so we're selling this thing, right? It's it's assistance, it's coaching, it's consulting, it's mentoring, whatever.
Yeah.
If the person making the decision in the company really had a burning desire, a need for this stuff, they would cut through this red tape, right? They would find a way to acquire the thing that they really believe that they needed, right? Yeah. So is there anything on the part of the person who is offering the services, like what can we do to make a better value proposition? I didn't mean to derail you, but that's the question.
Yeah, that does derail me. That's just its own other conversation.
We didn't have an outline.
But I know, but I'll put it to you this way. Part of our challenge there was actually answered in a book by Patrick Lencioni 12 years ago. The book is called The Advantage. Okay. The answer is literally on pages 1 and 2. Okay. Literally on pages 1 and 2. And on those pages, there's a story about a company that Patrick was consulting at, a very well-known company who actually might have even come up in this conversation, Matt.
And this one right here?
In this very conversation, that company actually has come up, but it is not named in Patrick's book.
Interesting.
Is it named with a lot of extra vowels on
it's got materials? A ton of vowels all over there.
Am I linked to it?
It's found as part of the alphabet. Anyway.
Okay, I'll check the alphabet.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, he actually asked one of the CEOs of this company,
multiple
and
CEOs,
say, "What do you think is it that sets you guys apart? that you have this kind of deep loyalty on the part of your employees and stuff like that?" And they said, this particular person with a C in their title said, "It's because I can sit down and I can work with practically anybody on any problem should the need arise to. Okay. And he goes, but what's the difference about you and other peers of yours in other companies? And he, named a couple of other companies. And why don't they do that? And the response from this particular person is gold. Okay.
Metaphorically.
Not just metaphorically, but physically, gold. I honestly believe they think it's beneath them. That's a direct quote from the book.
Oh, okay.
I honestly feel they believe it's beneath them.
For senior leaders to work with less senior leaders.
Yeah. Yeah. And there might be.
The place that is successful, there's a real tangible Gemba vibe, right? The leaders are going to the place where the work happens and they're interacting. And the place where it's not so good, the leaders think that that's not part of their...
Well, again, I'm not going to cast aspersions to folks.
No. This is just an observation of data.
But the fact is that, if you look at the success curves of companies, Apple, Microsoft, other companies that will remain unnamed, okay, when their senior leaders were more hands-on, okay, they were infinitely more successful. Now, I'll use a slightly odd example.
There's a story of Steve Jobs calling a guy on Sunday morning.
No, this is different. Now,
this is not the right color yellow I
want. I'm going off of maybe the 7th or 8th richest person on the planet. Say what you will about Steve Ballmer. Okay, say what you will about Steve Ballmer, but Steve Ballmer did believe developers, and he was into the thick of things of enabling developers to build stuff. Now, mind you, some of the stuff that came out after Microsoft XP, what were you thinking?
Yeah, and
what were you thinking?
The inability to get rid of the Windows brand in a cloud era.
But exactly. But the point was the trajectory that he took the company during that period of time is nothing short of stellar. So other than maybe the merger of buying out Nokia and the Zune and that kind of stuff, the Ballmer era was, for crying out loud.
Aside from that, Mrs. Lincoln, he did have some big... Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, there were some big gains. There were some big gains, but the fact is that he made it about the people. He did not necessarily think that it was beneath him to get involved with the developer. He didn't code necessarily, but he became involved with what's the problems the developers are encountering. Okay, because the developers drive our platforms. Okay?
Developer experience is an interesting thing that I see a lot of companies not necessarily paying attention to, and it makes a huge difference.
Correct.
Like, it's hard to ship the thing. Like, why are you making... It's kind of like if you run a restaurant and, the brooms are crappy and all the tools suck, and it's like, you can't get the stove to turn on and all this stuff. It's like, it's harder to ship value.
Yeah. So I think that's a whole other conversation about, as I honestly feel they believe it's beneath them. That statement is for me, when I read that book, which actually is right there, I'm literally pointing at it. I keep it handy for my classes. It was very much my experience in other organizations that I've worked at. It's been my experience in organizations that I've worked at as we've done this agile transformation thing.
Yeah.
And
which does not exist.
Well, it suggests that if you're going to do a transformation or continuous improvement, you want to focus on how the leaders think about it first.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and actually that's the basis of his book, oddly enough. I'm not trying to pimp him out, but the fact is he detailed a leadership unit. He actually called it a team, oddly enough, where he described that those people would have a backlog to work from and that they actively worked the product as their backlog and took ownership of it and actually were developers.
Yeah, it suggests a unity of purpose and a shared understanding of what the goal is ultimately for us together.
Precisely, and we have other names for that sort of thing. He didn't describe it operating the way we've seen other things operated, but he did have the basis, the nucleus for, okay, setting direction, okay, creation or development of the things, and then coordination so that those functions are working well. Okay, three functions of something that we're also very familiar with, but I won't name in this conversation. But the point is, he detailed how these leaders should be operating that way. And this calls back to a conversation you and I had briefly not too long ago, Mike, about Scrum at Scale. That has a name. Okay.
Yes.
Jeff has called it the Executive Action Team. What is their product? The company. That's their product. What is their backlog? Make a better company. Improve the company. That's their backlog. What should we do? Work as a team. What does that mean? People with C's in their title actually are developing things themselves. Not necessarily even delegating them, but getting their hands dirty.
And how can you tell if it's working? You have metrics that are directly measuring whatever the outcomes are that you're trying to do as a business.
You have something that you have something that shows that some particular outcome is being progressed towards.
Yes.
Okay. They're not results. They're progress. Okay. And people say, key performance. No. They're key progress indicators. Okay. They're key decision informers. Okay. Are we progressing to some sort of objective? How do we know? Okay. And what decisions does that indicator inform? Okay. And those things should be also objective and not vanity oriented. Part of the problem we have with those sorts of things is they tie back into their executive compensation packages, and then we get Jeff and Mike because my bonus and your bonus
don't have the same goal.
Well, it's because bonuses are a zero-sum game. So
correct. Which oddly enough also was talked about in a different Lencioni book. And I'm not trying to turn this into a Lencioni fest.
We are big supporters of Patrick Lencioni.
Yeah, but he's got some. I'm sorry, the guy's got some good ideas. I'll take good ideas from practically anyone.
Anywhere. Yes.
From practically anywhere, except. I'm not going to say the name of the certain organization here, because I don't want to trigger Mike. But
is it NASA?
We already know. So let's.
Mike hates NASA.
Let's just leave that under the rug.
To go back to Patrick Lencioni, the fact that any source with a good idea is good, but he does an exceptional job of explaining those ideas in a relatable way. And so that's what's so cool about it.
The fact that quote unquote, like things like the 5 dysfunctions of the teams are used a whole lot in a whole lot of different contexts is anecdotal. We haven't done a scientific academic study on it, but it's got some legs.
It's useful for certain things, right? It's like all models. It's wrong, but it's very useful in certain things.
It is, and it's had some legs. For the last 14, 15 years, it's had some legs. Let's be honest. Okay. If it weren't useful at all, it wouldn't be being used as much as it is. Okay. I'll give that credit. And even to that thing that I will not name. Okay. I'll give even that credit. But the fact is that, and I had a conversation maybe about a month and a half ago. This was right before the holidays. We were on a different podcast. I will not name it what it is, but I had
a whole lot of not naming going on.
Yeah. Well,
it's fine.
Some of the attendees included Nigel Thurlow and some other folks that put together the flow system, and Nigel's good people in my book. I'm a Kanban trainer, and I'll stop and I'll listen. Okay, how can I make this better, Nigel? And I'll listen into how he's got, because he's got that cred. Okay. But we were having this conversation about this very subject, Matt, and we came to an understanding that part of what we'll need to change, okay, is our education system.
In the United States?
anywhere. Our MBA
I'm sorry,
programs,
that's going to have to be a separate podcast. That isn't big enough.
Our MBA programs still by and large teach Taylorian management and teach stakeholder economics. Okay, that's not to say it's not useful. I am a capitalist. I am not a socialist. Okay, but the way that it is educated in our MBA programs, okay, it is and has led to where we are today in business. Okay, where we have created this, as you said, a zero-sum game of bonuses. Okay, and another system where people are seen as cogs. Okay,
right.
The phrase itself, okay, the phrase itself has gone through several metamorphoses, but it is still a not. I'm not even going to say it imperfect. It's a messed up concept. Human resources comes from slavery. I'll put it out there. Sorry, I'm just going to put it out there. Okay, might set off some people, but too bad, so sad. Okay, and the Johnny come lately human capital management, not much bloody better. Okay, not much bloody better. Excuse me, human capital management. Okay,
putting people in the same category as desk chairs is
precisely.
Maybe
when
leaving
did
something
the
out.
blood coursing through my veins become somehow the property of the company? I entered into a business conversation with you. Okay?
Or the same thing, like a desk chair is something that you move and you deploy and you don't talk to it. You don't listen to it.
Yeah.
You don't work with it.
Yeah. So again, it comes back to part of our education system and our business systems. Okay. Need that sort of holistic change. And I don't use the word holistic very often. Okay. I find that word a little creepy, honestly.
There's this tendency to slap a certain A word in front of other things and pretend that they're a different thing. But
yes.
Is there room here for an AMBA?
The answer is maybe. And I'll tell you why, because a few years ago, I'm thinking back like in 2016, if I remember correctly, someone tried to put together, I think it was either with the University of Ohio or Ohio University, tried to put together that AMBA program. Okay. Supposedly there is yet another maybe second tier Ivy League university that has some sort of program like that. Here is the problem with that. Okay. It can't be in little pockets. It has to be a wholesale shift in how this stuff is educated. I'll give you a clear example.
They should all be AMBAs, you mean?
Well, so are you proposing a transformation of the education system?
Yeah.
To wholesale to this new paradigm, just without.
Oh, you're gonna go Weird Al Yankovic on me. No, I'm talking
UHF
about.
was a great movie.
Yeah. Well, no, this is. I'm thinking of a Weird Al Yankovic song.
Albuquerque.
No. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. By the end of the podcast, it'll come to me what the title of the doggone song is. But to de-jargonize it, okay, it needs to be rethought. That doesn't mean that we don't have some structure. Okay, we don't have some structure. It doesn't mean we have to go the full Zappos approach where there's no, there is no management hashtag.
That was a weird arc, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah, but something needs to change to help. And here's the thing: I'm not just bashing on upper management here. Okay, they're hostage of this system as well.
Well, that's what they learned.
Yeah, it's what they were taught. It's what they learned. It's what they were mentored in.
That's how they became successful.
It's what was reinforced, okay, by the systems that they became a part of, okay. The dopamine hit that they got whenever they got, ooh, cash, ooh, money, ooh, bonuses, ooh, perks. Okay, that dopamine hit further reinforced all these things.
Yeah.
And, well, it's what we deal with.
Further reinforced by the first thing you talked about, shareholders.
Correct. And here is the thing. That is not necessarily a bad thing, because who could change it? Who could literally shift that? The shareholders themselves. If the shareholders voted with their pocketbook and said,
but we won't. We won't, because we have a short-term view and we want our profits now, damn it. I don't want long-term profit. I want long-term profits, but I want profits right now.
Correct. Yep. Because tomorrow is not promised. Exactly. And so,
right.
And
which is why we're getting rid of the current CEO and bringing in a new one with a 2-year contract to increase profits and decrease in any way possible.
Right.
So and the MBA program tells them how to do that.
Yeah. So oddly enough, one of the questions that I've asked when entering into one of these agile transformations, one of the questions I've actually asked is, how long has your current C-suite been populated? I actually did a brief workshop with a credit union last year, and I actually asked them, looking at your C-suite, who's been here the longest, who's been here the shortest, what's the average tenure of any of your C-suite,
and whose vision are we executing right now?
And that sort of stuff that gives you a sense for the sort of internal stability in an organization if they are able to actually execute things near term.
Yeah, it's tough, because what I hear you saying is you want to go to a place where leaders have a more of a long-term view and they're executing things, because that's the kind of place you want. Like if you're looking at a place, you want a place where it's led with the right. I don't want to say but we have so many examples of things like Southwest and Boeing where they played this short-term game, and so you have to. So what I hear you saying, tell me if I'm wrong, is that if you want trying to sell consulting and training and mentoring services, you want to pitch it to the executive layer, but you want to make sure you're talking to the right executives who are playing a long-term game.
Okay, I'm going to go improv on you and say yes and.
Perfect.
Yes and. Okay, because people ask me a question, and I think maybe you even asked me this one time, Mike. Maybe you asked me this: how far can you get an agile transformation? How far can you get an agile transformation in an organization? And if I remember correctly, I answered you this way. Okay, you'll get change. Not necessarily transformation, but change one level below the highest level of management that says, we're going here. I'll help you. I'm going to get my hands dirty, but we're going here. And as long as that air cover was actively showing that they were getting their hands dirty, that transformation actually ran. It actually worked. It actually delivered. It actually yielded some results of what was hoped or expected to.
Leadership.
But the minute that those hands started to remove themselves proactively, that's when stuff started to slow.
The third law of thermodynamics strikes again. Entropy returns.
Yes, precisely. So it's yes, and we also have to get that frozen middle proactivated as well, because let's be also honest, a lot of the folks that are there, maybe VP, director level and stuff like that, they're coasting. I'll be honest.
They're waiting for direction. They're filling their time with whatever they can. Okay. And we've disrupted all that by taking away their toys.
Yep. They're asking their coaches, and I'm actually thinking about an organization right now.
What's the name of
it? They're asking their coaches to create agile maturity assessments with specific hard targets for each one of the teams, because they've literally already agreed to their upper management that we're going to hit them by this time.
Marcelo, when you come back, maybe we can talk about systems versus goals.
This is happening as this podcast is being recorded, some
now?
Agile coach is crying because they have to prepare a presentation for somebody for this very thing that I've just described. They're crying. So
okay, so let's stay out of the squishy middle because we've covered the squishy middle a lot. We haven't done a whole lot up at the C shareholder suite. So let's stay at that level for this point. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got this concept of shareholder value that is purely profit driven. And they have a C-suite that answers to them, that therefore needs to provide those profits and enable those profits, right?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the disconnect happens. Like, as much as we want to bring agility into an organization, or not even bring agility in, but bring better ways of working, and agility being one that is enabling these improvements in a measurable way.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So agility is a means to an end, not the end itself.
Right. And I'll go even
might be a better word.
I'll go yes and on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes your agenda, Mike, has to be sustainability. Sometimes your agenda has to be survivability. It can't be 100% growth, and it sure as hell can't be 100% growth all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's zero growth, but the C-suite, if they were being more honest, I'm not saying they're dishonest, but if they were being more honest, okay, they would understand and push back into their shareholders at saying, here's why we have these certain challenges, and the problem is that they have to say these things publicly, and saying and admitting to certain things publicly is its own razor's edge. Okay, but if they approached the market that they operate in with understanding that there are several different agendas, and that sometimes the agenda we need to, for the given current state of the market, for the given current state of the organization, needs to be survivability oriented, they should be able to be that way. But again, the environment, because we compete for shareholders, doesn't really promote that possibility. That's why I said earlier, I empathize with our C-suite folks, because they're, in a sense, they're also captured by this system.
But could you think of that as a leadership challenge? Like, yeah, that's a tough job, and also that's what the money's for. Like,
of course,
you don't want that role.
And how could they do it? Fair? By working as a team and working at how do we make it possible for our shareholders to understand that we are serving for this period of time a more survivability oriented agenda for longer term whatever. Okay?
Didn't people scream at Amazon for years for not turning a profit? They said that we're going to reinvest for years and years and years. We're not going to turn any profit. We're going to reinvest, and you will be grateful eventually. And that certainly happened. That was leadership.
That was leadership. That was Jeff recognizing. And the funny part is that he wrote, or rather he spoke, I forget, I think it was Business Insider or somebody recently, he answered a question of why books. I mean, I'm going to use Jeff's example. Jeff, why books? Why did you choose to start Amazon? But why books? You know, because it was an easy target to get into.
Yeah, totally.
It was an easy target to get into.
Yeah.
Okay. And because it was an easy target to get into, he was able to test out his idea of being able to drop ship things, not having to have physical warehouses, because Amazon didn't have any of these distribution centers back in the day.
Right.
I mean, seriously. Okay. So he tested out this experiment via drop shipping, and he goes, I wonder if I could apply this to household products. I wonder if I could do this.
He didn't go straight to lettuce, in other words, the hardest thing to sell on the internet. He's almost there today.
No. And he tested out these different hypotheses. But the reason he was able to do that is because A, he was small. B, he thought long term but executed small wins, okay, along the way. Okay. Now, you could make the argument that they've grown, or parts of Amazon have grown to a point where I'm not going to say they've lost their way, but they kind of, sort of, Okay, because when I have an Agile coach from a certain web services division of some large company tell me, oh, our Agile approach is a pure Agile methodology, and they're asking in the same breath to turn on subtasks and Jira because teams can't be Agile unless you have subtasks and Jira. One of these things.
Okay. So, you're digressing.
I know.
We do have a hard out, Mike. This is for you.
I know. I do have a hard out, and so
But anyways, so yeah. Sorry about. Hey, I didn't promise you that I was going to be 100% rant free.
This is what we signed up for. This is when Marcelo Lopez's son shows up.
All right, so I'm gonna.
That was the rant.
I'm gonna try and bring this back into something. We've had many conversations about the concept of running a product at the product level involves a product owner who makes win-loss decisions, investment decisions to get profit, to get sustainability, to get all those things. So as the fractal grows and we get up to our C-suite team, their product, to Marcelo's earlier point, is the name on the door, the things that they produce, the profitability of said thing. They have to take the same kind of concepts into mind, into their decision making.
Yes.
For profitability, sustainability, all those things, and in service of their stakeholder, the shareholder, right? And somebody needs to be able to say, and that's okay. That's all right for us to not just keep banging out new features without upgrading the infrastructure. They have to take the same mindset. So in that sense, that improvement mindset can move up to that level, but
somebody needs to begin with why.
Yeah.
And maybe that AMBA is the place where that message finally gets through to them.
I 100% agree with what Mike just said.
1 minute.
Okay, but I'll throw in a curveball for potentially a future conversation. Is culture a product?
Okay, that is a great future question, and we will not answer that right now.
I can tell you
right now.
I can tell you with 100% certainty, this has been an Agile thing, and I have been Matt B.
I've been Mike Marchi.
I've been Jeff Singleton.
And I'm still Marcelo Lopez.
And we didn't kill him.
And I think he's coming back
and I only limited it to one rant.
One big rant.
It really just started at the beginning and just kept going.
Okay.
We'll see you next time, everybody.
Yes,
so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Absolutely. Remember, it's all connected.